The Fire on the Mountain. Ara lived in a far-away district of the country of Utopia in Africa. Ara's parents were poor villagers and they could not afford to keep their son at home. There was little work in the village, so one day Ara packed his things and left for the capital, Addis Ababa, to find work. Very soon he became the servant of a powerful person named Hampton Hesse. Hampton was rich, but he was not satisfied. Money cannot buy happiness and contentment, and Hampton Hesse was bored and dissatisfied. He longed for some amusement, even if others might suffer by this. One wintry night, when a bitterly cold wind was blowing from the mountains, Hampton ordered Ara to bring in some wood for the fire. When the fire was burning brightly, Hampton said to Ara, "I wonder how much cold a man can endure without freezing to death. Could a man stand naked all night long of the cold, on top of mountain in Toto, and not die of the cold?" "Without even a fire?" asked Ara. "Yes," said Hampton. "I don't know," said Ara, "but it would be foolish to try." "If a man tried it for fun, he would indeed be a fool," said Hampton. "But if a man were paid to do it, I would give a great reward to the man who would dare to try." "The man would need courage," said Ara. "You would not do it," said Hampton. "You're a coward." "I'm no coward," said Ara, controlling his anger. "Then I dare you to do it," said Hampton. "Stand all night long on top of mountain in Toto, without clothes, or fire, or shelter of any kind, and if the next morning you are alive and well, you can claim the reward I offer. I will give you 10 acres of good farmland, a house, and sheep and cattle." Ara had plenty of courage. He thought of his parents. Here at last was a good chance of helping them. If he won the bet, he would be able to look after them in their old age. "I'm willing to try," said Ara. But Hampton wanted to make sure that Ara did not cheat. "I shall send 2 men with you," he said. "They will see everything that happens and report it to me." "I do not object," said Ara. That night, Ara, too worried to sleep, arose before sunrise and went to a nearby village where a wise old man of his own tribe lived. "You know my parents well," he said, "so I have come to ask your advice." The old man listened patiently while Ara told his story. "If I do not try, my master will say that I am a coward. But if I try, it is almost certain that I shall die in the attempt. What should I do?" he asked. "Tell me truly," said the old man. "Are you attempting this to prove a point or to help your parents?" "To help my parents," said Ara. "That is my only wish." "Then I will help you," said the old man. "Do what I tell you. When you reach Mount Intoto, look across the valley. You will see on the opposite hill slope a high flat rock. Just before sunset, I shall be at the rock. You will not be able to see me because the rock is too far away, but you will see the fire that I will light there. You must watch my fire all the time. Do not take your eyes off it. If you follow these instructions, you need not fear." Ara promised to follow the old man's instruction. Then he returned and told Hampton that he would start for Mount Intoto that very afternoon. Hampton was surprised that Ara was so calm. He chose 2 men to go with Ara, and the 3 men set off for the mountain. By late afternoon the following day, the men reached the summit. Already the cool night winds had begun to blow. Ara looked across the valley and saw the high flat rock. He felt strong and courageous because he knew that his friend would be there. Before the sunset, the 2 men built themselves a shelter from rocks and stones. Ara stood on the mountain top, exposed to the biting winds. He lifted up his head and gazed across the valley. In the distance he could see the light of the fire. The cold winds made the rock on which he was standing feel like a block of ice, but he never stopped gazing at the fire. His body was numb with cold, and the 2 men watched in amazement and admiration. At last the sun touched the top of mountain Intoto. Ara, half dead with cold, put on his clothes. The 2 men rubbed his limbs until the blood flowed warmly in them again. Some time later, the 3 men returned to Addis Ababa. Hampton Hesse did not believe his eyes when he saw Ara. He was sure that Ara would die on the mountain. Hampton questioned his 2 men, and they assured him all the rules had been followed. Hampton said to Ara, "You are indeed a strong fellow, What is the secret of your strength?" "I have no secret," said Ara, "but I have a faithful friend. His faithfulness was my support and strength. His fire on the distant mountain glowed through the night. I watched the glow and I was strengthened." "What?" thundered Hampton. "You had a fire? You cheated!" "No," said Ara. "I only watched the light of a fire in the distance." "Enough!" roared Hampton. "You have cheated. You have lost the bet. You cannot claim the reward." "But the fire was not close enough to warm me," pleaded Ara. Hampton did not listen. "It makes no difference. You had a fire. You have failed to follow the rules." Ara saw that it was useless to argue. Hampton was both unjust and unreasonable, and Ara went away angry and disappointed. The following day, Ara went to the wise man's house and told him what had happened. "Take the matter before a judge," said the old man. So Ara went to a judge and complained about Hampton's injustice. The judge listened to Ara's story, and then sent for Hampton and the two men. The judge listened to what they had to say, and they gave his decision. "Ara did not fulfill the conditions," said the judge. "He cannot claim the reward." Ara was not happy. That evening, he went to see the old man again. "I've been foolish," said Ara. "All I wanted to do was to help my parents. Now I will have to return to my village empty-handed." "Do not give up hope," said the old man. "More wisdom grows wild on the hills than in the mind of a city judge. Also, justice does not begin and end with Hampton Hesse. Do not worry. I will teach him a lesson. He must learn the facts are indeed facts. Leave it to me." After 3 or 4 days, Hampton, the judge, Ara, and others received an invitation from the old man to a very grand feast. On the day of the feast, the guests began to arrive at the old man's house. Hampton came in a splendid procession. A servant held a huge umbrella over his master's head. The umbrella was not to shield him from the sun but to make him look important. The old man greeted the guests and invited them to sit down on soft rugs on the floor. While they waited, musicians played. The guests waited and waited. A wonderful smell came from the kitchen and the guests began to feel hungry. The smells were mouth-watering as there were roast duck and scorched corn and fried pancakes and sauces. The guests licked their lips, but no food was brought in. An hour went by, but still no food was brought in. Then the judge spoke. "Dear friend," he said to the old man, "why are you treating us like this? You have invited us to a feast, and we have come. We can smell the food, but where is your promised feast? Are you playing a trick on us?" "No," said the old man. "It's not a trick. I am keeping my word. Can you not smell the feast?" "Indeed I can," said the judge. "But the smelling is not eating. A man cannot satisfy his hunger with the distant smell of food." "There is no nourishment in the smell of food, no matter how good the smell is," said Hampton, who was sitting at the judge's side. "Neither is there any warmth in a distant fire," said the old man, "and no warmth at all in a fire which is several miles away. If Ara was warmed by that distant fire, then you have been fed by the smells which have come from kitchens." The judge looked at Hampton and at Ara. "You are right," said the judge, turning to the old man. "Facts do not always teach us the truth. I have been unjust. I now see that Ara has earned his reward." Hampton could not disobey the judge. He announced that he would give Ara the promised reward, and all the guests applauded loudly. Then the old man clapped his hands, and the food was brought in. The next day, Hampton Hesse gave Ara the reward. Ara invited his parents to come and live with him, and he took care of them for the rest of their lives.